In the kingdom of Vamsapura, gold towers glisten under a sun too bright for peace. King Surananda, once fearless, stands before a burning pyre, his childhood friend reduced to smoke. The crowd chants prayers, but he hears only the sound of his own heartbeat asking, "If I am king of all, why can I not command death?" That night, sleepless beneath jeweled ceilings, he dreams of a man wrapped in calm light, walking through fire without burning. Can peace walk through fear? He wonders, what if silence answered death? As dawn seeps through the lattice, he whispers, such a man exists. I will find him." But the flame in his dream flickers again, this time within his chest, refusing to fade. Morning finds the palace heavy with silence. The king calls for Mira, demanding the secret to endless life. She bows and says gently, "Majesty, medicine heals the body, not the fear beneath it." Her words unsettle him more than disease itself. The prince listens quietly, sensing a new shadow in his father's eyes. That night, the king orders his astrologers to chart the stars for the hour death cannot reach. They draw symbols until dawn, but every line ends in the same truth: impermanence. The king's fists tighten around the scrolls and he mutters, "Then I will find the one who escaped this circle." In the quiet courtyard, Prince Aniruddha, age 18, sits alone beside the lotus pond. He recalls the fire, the ashes, the strange emptiness that followed. Mira joins him and whispers, "Even kings cannot hold the river still." The prince asks softly, "Then why do we try?" Before sunrise, the king climbs the eastern tower and stares toward the forest. His fear has ripened into resolve. He calls for his fastest messenger and says, "Find the monk they call the Awakened One. Tell him the king of Vamsapura commands his presence." But even as he speaks, his voice trembles, not with authority, but with longing. Days turn into restless nights as the king's command travels across lands. Messengers gallop through forests, deserts, and villages, asking for the man called the Awakened One. But word returns the same. The Buddha does not come for kings. Those who seek truth must walk to him. King Surananda's pride shatters like thin glass. Still, beneath his fear, a quiet determination stirs. He whispers, "Then I shall go to him." And for the first time, the great palace feels too small for his questions. Mira approaches the king as he prepares for the journey. "Your Majesty," she says softly, "the path to the Buddha is not guarded by swords, but by silence." The king smiles faintly. "Then silence will be my weapon." He leaves behind his jewels and crown, dressing like a humble traveler. As he steps beyond the palace gates, Prince Aniruddha watches from the balcony, his heart torn between pride and worry. The road winds through silent villages where life moves in fragile rhythm, births, laughter, and quiet farewells. The king walks among farmers and beggars, unseen and unrecognized. He sees how they live, how they die, how they still smile. Each face becomes a mirror, reflecting the same truth. No one escapes the turning of time. That night, the king rests beneath an ancient banyan tree. The wind hums through its roots like whispered prayers. He dreams again of the Buddha, this time standing beside a river of stars. The Buddha's voice echoes, "To seek life without accepting death is to chase the sun and fear its light." The king wakes trembling, realizing the journey is no longer toward a man, but toward truth itself. At dawn, the king reaches the forest's edge. A monk in saffron robes greets him with a calm bow. "The Blessed One awaits beyond the river," he says. The king nods but hesitates, looking back at the distant spires of his palace fading in mist. "Once I cross," he murmurs, "I can never return the same." The monk smiles. "That is the crossing, Majesty." The forest opens like a breath after silence. King Surananda steps beneath its green canopy, where the air hums with unseen life. The path ahead is rough, yet strangely peaceful. Birds call in distant harmony, and sunlight filters through leaves like scattered blessings. For the first time, He walks not as a ruler, but as a seeker. How small is a man beside the whisper of trees, he murmurs, and yet, how proud we are of our shadows. His sandals sink into the earth, and the rhythm of his steps begins to match the heartbeat of the world. By a riverbank, the king meets an old ferryman who rows travelers across in silence. Surananda asks, "How much to cross?" The ferryman smiles. "Nothing. Only your hurry." The king sits, watching the current shimmer. In the gentle rhythm of the water, he feels time slowing, like a wound learning to close. The king continues deeper into the wild, passing a village where a funeral and a birth happen side by side. He pauses. One house filled with tears, another with laughter. For a long moment he stands between them, understanding what no scholar had ever taught him: joy and sorrow drink from the same river. Night falls, and the king builds a small fire beneath the stars. He remembers Mira's words. Medicine heals the body, not the fear beneath it. As he stares into the flames, he feels the same fear rise, then soften. He watches it, not as an enemy, but as a passing guest. The forest seems to breathe with him, each sound dissolving into stillness. At dawn, the king reaches the heart of the forest, a glade of silence where time feels absent. In the distance, under a bodhi tree, sits the figure from his dream, the Buddha, still as a mountain, yet soft as breath. The king stops walking. He knows that every step beyond this point is not toward a man, but toward the end of himself. King Surananda steps softly into the glade. The forest hushes as if holding its breath. Before him, the Buddha sits beneath the bodhi tree, eyes half closed, face calm as still water. The king's heart beats loudly, like a drum against silence. He kneels and whispers, "I am the king of Vansapura, seeker of immortality." The Buddha opens his eyes, clear, gentle, endless. "If you seek what does not die," he says, "first learn what has never been born." The king sits before the Buddha. "I have conquered lands and wealth, but death still waits at my door," he confesses. The Buddha smiles faintly. "Then you have built a palace with no foundation," he replies. "You cling to sand and call it stone." The king bows his head, realizing the weight he has carried was never his to bear. The Buddha points toward a fallen leaf drifting on the stream nearby. "See how it moves with the water, not against it," he says. "So too should your heart flow with change. To fight impermanence is to drown in it." The king watches the leaf vanish around the bend and feels something inside him loosen, just a little. The king speaks again, his voice trembling. "But if I let go of all I love, what remains of me?" The Buddha's eyes soften. Only what is real. For a long moment, neither speaks. The forest hums. The wind carries petals, and somewhere far away, a cuckoo sings a sound so simple it feels like truth itself. As twilight descends, the king bows deeply. "I came to escape death," he says quietly. "Instead, you have shown me how to die before dying." The Buddha nods. When one releases clinging, the heart no longer ends. The king closes his eyes, tears tracing his smile. For the first time, he feels alive. Not forever, but fully. Morning light drapes the forest in gold. The Buddha leads King Surananda to a quiet pond where the air smells of rain and earth. "Look," says the Buddha. "The world appears only when the mind is still enough to see it." The king gazes into the water and sees his reflection ripple. "A crownless man with tired eyes. Is that who I am?" he whispers. The Buddha replies, "Only until the wind comes." The Buddha lifts a pebble and drops it into the pond. Ripples distort the king's image, breaking it apart. "Desire is like this," he says. "Every wish trembles the heart until the self disappears." The king watches his reflection dissolve, feeling both fear and relief. "Then to be whole," he murmurs. I must stop wishing to be more than I am. As the wind rises, fallen leaves scatter across the pond, floating briefly before sinking. All that comes must go, the Buddha says, but nothing truly leaves the water. The king closes his eyes, remembering the faces of his ancestors, his friends, pyre, the cries of his newborn son. Each memory drifts by, tender and light, then disappears. Yet peace remains. The Buddha asks quietly, "Can you hold the river in your hands?" The king laughs through tears. "No, Lord. The river lives because it flows." The Buddha nods. So too with life. Try to keep it, and it dies in your grasp. Let it move, and it remains forever. The king lowers his hands, palms open, as though releasing invisible chains. As the sun sets, the pond glows like liquid fire. The king bows to the Buddha. "I sought immortality in gold and stone," he says softly. "Now I see it in the breath that comes and goes. When you stop grasping for eternity, eternity is what remains." The king's reflection steadies at last, clear, calm, and free. Night folds softly over the forest. The Buddha leads King Surananda to a quiet grove, where the wind carries only the scent of jasmine and soil. Here, the Buddha says, "Sit and see what remains when all else is gone." The king closes his eyes. His crown, his palace, his fear, all drift away like smoke. Beneath the hush of trees, he meets something vast, wordless and still. The space beneath thought itself. Hours pass. A tear slips down the king's cheek, not from sorrow, but from release. He sees his life as a dream. Birth, crown, desire, loss, all waves upon the same ocean. "Nothing was ever mine," he whispers. The Buddha's voice drifts like wind, and yet, when you let go of mine, all becomes one with you. At dawn, the Buddha instructs, "Watch your breath." The king follows, counting each inhale, each exhale. The forest awakens with him. The river murmurs. Birds stir, leaves sway. He realizes that the same rhythm moves in all things. "The breath of the world," he says softly, "is the breath of this body." When the sun rises fully, the Buddha holds a wilted lotus in his hand. "Majesty," he says, "what do you see?" The king answers, "A flower that once was beautiful." The Buddha smiles. "It is still beautiful. It shows you what cannot last, and that truth is sacred." The king bows deeply, understanding that even decay is holy. Later, as the sun fades into amber, the Buddha turns to him. "Now, King of Vamsapura, what do you still hold?" The king opens his palms and smiles. "Nothing." The Buddha nods. "Then all things are yours." A gentle wind stirs the forest, carrying the scent of earth and freedom. The king breathes it in, and for the first time, there is no fear. Only peace, vast as the sky. The journey back feels lighter than the wind itself. King Surananda walks barefoot along the forest path, each step a silent prayer. The Buddha's words echo within him. "What you release, releases you." The trees seem to bow as he passes, and the river hums its endless song. When he reaches the edge of the forest, he turns back once, bowing not to a teacher, but to the truth now living in his own heart. Days later, the gates of Vamsapura open. The people gasp to see their king return without guards, jewels, or crown. Yet his face shines with a serenity they have never known. "The king's changed," whispers one villager. "No," says another, smiling. "He has awakened." The sound of the crowd softens as Surananda walks among them, not above, but with them. In the palace garden, Prince Aniruddha runs to his father and embraces him. "You found the secret, father?" he asks. Surananda smiles. "I found nothing, and it set me free." The prince looks puzzled. then peaceful, sensing a truth too large for words. The king touches his son's forehead gently. To let go is to live without fear, he whispers. That evening, Mira joins the king by the lotus pond. You look younger, Majesty, she says softly. The king laughs gently. Perhaps I've stopped aging where fear once lived. Together they watch the moon rise, its reflection trembling upon the water. All things change, he says, but truth remains calm beneath the ripples. Later, the king stands alone on the palace balcony, gazing at the night sky. Stars scatter like jewels across velvet darkness. He feels the same quiet that once filled the forest. The same breath, the same peace. Now I am immortal, he whispers. Not because I live forever, but because I am no longer afraid to die. The wind carries his words into the endless night, merging them with silence.